In a world where economic pressure has become the ultimate weapon, Canada has just made a move that signals the absolute end of the North American alliance as we know it. For decades, the phrase closest allies defined the relationship between Ottawa and Washington, but today that bond has officially been severed by a $6.6 billion Declaration of Independence. Prime Minister Mark Carney has unveiled Canada's first ever defense industrial strategy. And make no mistake, this is a calculated revolt against American dominance. This massive $6.6 billion initiative is designed to transform Canada from a silent, dependent partner into a self-sufficient military power that no longer answers to the whims of the United States. This is not merely a policy update or a routine budget adjustment. It is a high-stakes counterstrike against the mounting trade pressures and aggressive tariff policies that have been flowing from Washington. For nearly a century, Canada has funneled billions of dollars into American pockets, effectively subsidizing the United States military-industrial complex while leaving its own domestic industry in the shadows. Now, the script has been flipped. Mark Carney is redirecting that massive flow of capital back into Canadian soil with a build, partner, buy framework that explicitly prioritizes Canadian firms over American giants. The message is bold, unapologetic, and final. Canada is raising the share of its defense acquisitions awarded to domestic firms to at least 70%, essentially slamming the door shut on American contractors who have long treated Canadian loyalty as a guaranteed revenue stream. At the heart of this dramatic strategy is the pursuit of strategic autonomy, a concept that is currently sending shockwaves through the corridors of the Pentagon and the boardrooms of Wall Street. Canada is no longer willing to wait in line for American technology that comes with political strings attached or intellectual property controlled by a foreign power. This $6.6 billion fund is the catalyst for a new era where Canada builds its own advanced drones, pioneers its own artificial intelligence for battlefield applications, and secures its own borders through sovereign cybersecurity infrastructure. By investing in these next-generation sectors, Canada is hitting the United States exactly where it hurts most, the high-tech defense market. This move represents a multi-billion-dollar financial loss for American aerospace and defense giants who are now facing a reality where their closest neighbor is becoming their most determined competitor. This is a clear signal from Ottawa that the era of being hostage to the decisions of others is over. Canada is betting on its own engineers, its own scientists, and its own industries to protect its sovereignty, even if it means permanently alienating its oldest trading partner. This deep shift in Canada's posture is a direct response to a global landscape where old alliances are fading and great power rivalry is returning to the forefront. Prime Minister Carney, an expert economist who understands that industrial capacity is the true currency of power, is positioning Canada as a leader among middle powers that refuse to be bullied by the economic nationalism of superpowers. The strategy is built on a framework that puts Canadian firms first in every single procurement discussion, focusing on 10 key sovereign capabilities, including aerospace, ammunition, and digital systems. By creating over 125,000 high-paying jobs and targeting a massive 240% growth in domestic defense revenue, Canada is not just buying weapons, it is building an economic fortress. This decoupling is a masterstroke that allows Canada to meet its NATO obligations on its own terms, free from the threat of United States tariffs or political leverage. The consequences of this defense revolt will be felt for decades to come as the traditional North American border is being reimagined as a line of competition rather than just cooperation. This is the harsh reality of a world where every nation must secure its own future or suffer the consequences of dependency. For the United States, this is a wake-up call that its aggressive trade tactics have finally pushed its closest neighbor to build a wall of its own, an industrial wall made of steel, silicon, and sovereign ambition. Canada has officially struck back, and the message to Washington is loud and clear. Canada is open for business, but it is no longer for sale. As the global rules-based order fades, Canada is choosing to focus on what it can control by rebuilding, rearming, and reinvesting in its own people. This $6.6 billion investment is the foundation of a new Canadian powerhouse that intends to lead in frontier technologies like quantum and robotics, ensuring that the country's security and prosperity are never again dependent on the shifting political winds of its southern neighbor. The transition from a dependent ally to a partner of choice marks the end of an era for the North American defense ecosystem. While the United States and Canada continue to share a vast border, the integration of their supply chains is being fundamentally reevaluated under this new Buy Canadian North Star. The creation of the new Bureau of Research, Engineering, and Advanced Leadership, known as Borealis, alongside an independent defense investment agency, underscores the institutional commitment to this shift. By aiming to grow defense industry revenues by over 240% and boosting defense exports by 50%, Canada is preparing to compete on the world stage as a premier provider of sovereign defense solutions. This strategy is an authentic reflection of a nation reclaiming its destiny, proving that in the modern geopolitical arena, true security can only be achieved through independent industrial strength. The world is watching as Canada takes this leap into the unknown, challenging the status quo and proving that even the closest friendships have their limits when national survival is on the line. As the first $6.6 billion begins to flow into Canadian factories and research labs, the North American landscape is changing forever. The era of dependency has ended, and the era of Canadian sovereignty has officially begun.